I think it's just important for the LIV guys to be up there because I think we need to be up there. I think there's a lot of chatter about these guys don't play real golf. These guys don't play real golf courses. For sure, I'll be the first one to say the fields aren't as strong. I'm the first one to say that, but we still got a lot of guys up there that can play some really serious golf.
That's Cameron Smith speaking to the golf media at Augusta National. It sounds a lot like a man with a point to prove. There have been a lot of questions around Smith and how his 17 LIV teammates competing at the Masters might colour the event. Will they be welcomed by other players? Will they wear LIV logos? Will they storm the 18th green if one of the team wins, as suggested by Greg Norman? Perhaps what's been overlooked is how Smith might deal with the ghosts of last year's nasty final round. Today, we're unpacking it all. I'm Patrick Stack. This is ABC Sport Daily. Nick O'Hearn is a former member of the US PGA Tour. He has played the Masters 4 times, even managed a top 20 finish there in 2006. He's the host of a very punny titled Talk Birdie to Me podcast. Nick, it feels as though the eyes of the golfing world are on Cam Smith this week. As the banner player for the Saudi-backed LIV League, it was always probably going to be the way. And he's spoken to the media today. He seemed quite comfortable to me. How do you think he's handling the scrutiny of the golfing world watching what he's doing this week?
Well, I mean, Cam Smith, he's possibly one of the most laid-back characters you'll see off the golf course. On the course, he's one of the grittiest competitors you'll also see. So nothing that goes on in the media or surrounding the circus, I guess you could say, is going to affect him too much. I mean, it was quite an interesting press conference, admitting the fields aren't quite as strong as the PGA Tour, obviously, and he does miss some tournaments.
Yeah, I do miss certain tournaments, certain golf courses, I think.
Yeah, I think he'll handle it pretty well, and once he gets out on that golf course, his record is pretty impressive, so I'm sure he'll feel pretty comfortable.
The LIV competitors haven't played that much. There's been just 3 tournaments for their year so far, and it was intriguing to hear Smith talk about how he thinks the Rebel League needs to perform in order to prove a point almost. This is going to be the first time we get a read on how the different league might be impacting these competitors. How do you think their lead-in might impact the way they go here at Augusta?
Yeah, it hasn't been ideal, that's for sure. They've only played 3 LIV golf events, have you mentioned. I think some of them played the event in Saudi Arabia as well. Unfortunately, he missed the cut there, which was an actual cut event. And then his other 3 starts, what have they been? 6th, I think 26th and 29th. So definitely not ideal.
I'm just not playing really good golf at the moment, and I'm trying to fix that.
Last week they played an event in Orlando, Florida. That's probably the furthest thing that you're going to get from Augusta National, Bermuda greens and a very resorty style of golf. So preparation-wise, not ideal. I mean, for someone like Brooks Koepka, he's obviously loving it because he won the golf tournament, the individual title, and is showing some sort of form. I did read that Cam said he felt pretty good in the last round, but just dropped a few shots which were a bit careless.
Like I said, there's lots of stuff, particularly last week, I think. That was a really big positive. I had it going there yesterday afternoon to not really finish that well, and I feel like there was lots of really nice stuff to kind of get out of that.
I think, unfortunately, that's what happens when you don't play those competitive reps week in and week out, because the guys on the PGA Tour and European Tour, they've been playing a lot of golf already this year, and they're fully primed for what's in front of them. It's almost as though the LIV players are going to be playing a little bit of catch-up, I'd say, because all of a sudden there is a cut and there is this external pressure that maybe they don't quite feel as much of in the LIV golf, given it's 54 holes, guaranteed money, no cut. So I think this is going to be a great indication.
It was interesting to hear Smith also talk about the warm reception that he received.
I've spent probably an hour out in the range already this afternoon. It was good to see some familiar faces, lots of laughs and lots of handshakes. It was really nice. I really wasn't sure what I was going to expect walking onto the range, but it was good to see some familiar faces and lots of smiles.
Are you surprised that relations aren't more frosty?
Oh, not towards Cam. No, he's one of the nicest guys out there. Very laid back and obviously gets along with most people. I mean, even when he got the snub at the Players because he joined LIV, the Players Championship he wasn't allowed to play this year, he sort of took it on the chin and said, I might even go out and watch. So you can sort of almost tell that he does miss some of those events, but as far as whether he'll get the cold shoulder, that definitely won't happen with him. He's good mates with a lot of players out there. Probably some frosty looks or, the odd snide remark made about them. I know Freddie Couples has come out in the media.
I feel bad that they're doing this, but I don't dislike Brooks Koepka or Sergio or Lee Westwood. It's their lives, but I think they're ruining it.
I'd love to be at that Champions Dinner, which happens on the Tuesday night. That would be fascinating, some of the conversations and the seating arrangements. But yeah, that would be a fun one to almost be a fly on the wall for sure.
One big name who will not be at that dinner is Greg Norman. He says he has not been invited to the overall event. Now, LIV like to see themselves as great disruptors. And we heard Norman say that his 18 players had a meeting and agreed that if one of their 18 win, the other 17 will storm the green with congratulations for their victor. Can you imagine the optics of that, Nick? It was intriguing to hear Cam Smith say that he hadn't been part of that meeting.
There definitely hasn't been a conversation with me. If there was one, I definitely got left out of that one.
And it spoke to me that in one of golf's more sacred sites, maybe the LIV guys aren't entirely comfortable being disruptors in that space. As someone who's played there, Nick, can you maybe tell us how something like that would be received?
Probably not that well, I would think. The men at the Masters, the gentlemen who wear the green jackets, they're a bit of a law unto themselves, and sometimes they make their own rules up as they go along, which is totally up to them. I mean, we all play by their rules, obviously, and if you stood on the first tee and they said, look, you have to play this ball in this club, you'd just have to do it. They kind of, set the rules themselves. But if they did that, that would maybe lend themselves to perhaps changing the criteria for next time around. It wouldn't surprise me in that case. So, as you said, Cam Smith didn't get that memo as far as that 18 players on the last green. But if a LIV player does win, I will be very surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if they're up there at the end, but a victory for them. I mean, it's kind of hard-pressed to go past really the big three at the moment in golf, and that's Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm and Rory McIlroy. I think the winner will come from one of those three guys.
With all the focus on the LIV storyline, Smith's horror final round from 2022 has been forgotten somewhat.
Race Creek held that one out, Nick.
Yeah.
They pulled down to the right.
Tough to believe.
So no pars on the card through 4 holes for the young Aussie.
How much can something like that play on a golfer's mind, Nick?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you always remember what you do out on the golf course in previous events and how each hole sits, comfort-wise for you. But he has a lot of experience there and he's played well there in the past, so he'll be drawing on his positive memories. I mean, one thing I think elite pro golfers are good at is drawing on the positives, not the negatives. So, and if you do draw on the negatives, well, guess what? You're probably not going to be up there for very long. So having a short memory in that regard, as far as the negatives go, is a golfer's greatest asset. But also having a long memory with the positive things, that's also another asset as well. And the top pros are very good at those sorts of things, and that's why they win these majors and they become, legends of the game.
There are other great Australian stories. It's 10 years since Adam Scott won a green jacket. Minwoo Lee, his star continues to rise. Former world number 1 Jason Day is regaining health and confidence. Which of those three might give Australian golf fans the most reason to cheer?
Well, I think the obvious one is Jason Day. His form since the start of the year has just been very consistent and at a very, very high level. I think he started the year around 115 in the world rankings and needed obviously to get in that top 50. And I think he's ranked number 33 now. He's played 7 events and hasn't finished outside the top 20 in 7 tournaments. So his form is very, very good. And given his history, he finished second there, I think, in 2011 and third when Scotty won and fifth when Tiger won back in 2019. So he's definitely the pick of the bunch. Adam has some great history there, obviously. Minwoo, he's just an excitement machine and you never know what he's capable of.
I've been playing awesome. Other than a couple holes over there at Sawgrass, it was actually really solid golf. So if you do that, that's going to be a pretty solid week. So just keep doing what I'm doing. Wouldn't
surprise me if he goes out all guns blazing the first couple of rounds, but can you hang on the weekend? And obviously that famous line, the back nine on Sunday, is where it all happens. One person I'm feeling for right now, I guess, is Lucas Herbert, who's not there. He finished number 51 on the world rankings, so he missed out by 1 spot to getting in after the match play. So that will probably motivate him even more for next year.
Just finally, Harrison Crowe. For those who don't know the Australian amateur, why has he got a legion of fans around the world and a bit of sort of cult following?
Oh, well, he's done some things, a couple of things on YouTube. What did he hit that shot from the pub in St Andrews across all the hotels and that onto the 18th green? I think that's caught everyone's attention.
Get it all! That could work. On the green! He did it! All right. Let's go, baby! Okay. How close is it? Well, let's go find out right now. You're coming with us.
But he got into the tournament winning the Asia Pacific Championship in Thailand. He's just an excitement machine as well, a little bit like Min Woo Lee in that regard. And as an amateur, funnily enough, you get to stay in the Crow's Nest, which is a venue up top of the clubhouse. So Harrison Crowe could be in the Crow's Nest. I mean, that would be fantastic. I think he's only going to stay there one night after the amateur dinner, which is on the Monday night there. So other than that, he'll be at home or renting a house somewhere, I'm sure, with all his family.
I got a big crew over here this week, and it just makes all the week even more special. And there's so many other Aussies from a home club that are over this week. There's got to be at least 20.
He'll just soak up that experience, and who knows? I mean, an amateur has never won there, and there's a reason for that, because it's so difficult to win. You need years of experience to do it. So he'll be like a kid in a candy store, I'm sure.
It's golfing Christmas, really, this week. Thanks so much for opening a few presents for us, Nick. We appreciate it.
No problem, Patrick. Great to chat.
Headlines. Jared Hayne has been found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman in Newcastle in 2018. This was the third trial the former NRL player had faced over the incident. He pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of sexual intercourse without consent. Hayne is now facing the possibility of jail time with a maximum sentence of 14 years. The Ultimate Fighting Championship's parent company, Endeavour, has taken a majority share in World Wrestling Entertainment. That's the company owned by Vince McMahon. The deal's worth $31 billion. You wonder how much the cult of entertainment and personality in WWE might infect the mixed martial arts league of UFC. In an age where YouTubers boxing is probably bigger than boxers boxing, I think we can guess where this all might be heading. I reckon we could do a full episode on that. Maybe we will. Geelong captain Patrick Dangerfield says the club is struggling with a lack of confidence rather than a lack of hunger. The reigning premiers are 0-3 to start the season and are the only winless team in the AFL. The new skipper reckons the players need to remain positive and focus on the process. Real party line stuff. Geelong take on fierce rivals Hawthorn on Easter Monday. Should be a cracker. March Madness is over in the United States with Louisiana State and UConn, the champions of the women's and men's college hoops respectively. ESPN says that LSU's victory over Iowa State was the most viewed women's college game in history, pulling in an audience of 12.6 million at its peak. In the men's, UConn knocked over San Diego State 76-59 to claim a 5th NCAA title. I'm Patrick Stack. This is ABC Sport Daily, produced by Poppy Penny. If you still don't understand the whole LIV thing and why and how Greg Norman is involved, we actually did a story with a big-name golf writer when it first broke last year. Many of you may not have heard it because, look, it was an early episode and we were still growing. It was one of my favourite pods in the project so far. I've put a link to that in the show notes. Good context around today's episode. Thanks to the Masters Championship, Yahoo and Random Golf Club for the extra audio used in this episode.
Hit subscribe for more or try out the ABC Listen app for thousands of other podcasts all ad-free.